All right. We are live. So, welcome everybody to this edition of To Bought or Not by Set to Close. I'm your host, Jordan Rouse, CEO here at Set to Close, and I'm here with Joe Cronin, and he is the head of sales at what I think is a game-changing technology for the world in AI dialing and AI-enabled sales dialing. And he's from Koncert, and I'm going to let him talk all about things today, and we're going to dive into this topic. But I want you to pay attention. The biggest thing is about outcome in sales. We always talk about outcomes. And for us personally, this allowed our SDRs or our setters to almost 3x their output. So, meaning 3 times more live conversations. So, we're going to dive into some quick questions here and get going. But, Joe, nice to have you. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastically well, and I'm always excited to talk about Concert, always excited to talk about AI to the chagrin of my children who just roll their eyes at the dinner table whenever I talk about AI and how it's going to change all of our lives. Like that it's enough for them to that no more AI, but hopefully this audience is interested in how AI can help them with really outbound prospecting and phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive straight into it. I got some big questions because everyone's like, what is this? So I'd love you to explain what is AI enabled dialing software in general? What is the niche of what's happening right now? And where did it come? And where was it before? And what morphed into it? And then what problems does it solve? So I'll just let you start chatting about that. I'll be looking so everybody knows at questions and things. So as Joe's talking here, you guys will be able to listen to all this amazing information, and I'll be checking your questions as we go through. So take it away, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. And first, I'll start off with what it's not. And what it's not is a calling system that has an AI bot that just talks to your prospects. I think that's virtually been outlawed for normal outbound prospecting in the United States. And so that one seems to be off the table, that a robot will talk to your prospect. And it also, even if it ever became legal, you know what prospects are going to do? The same thing that they do when they get an email that they think is generated by a robot. They hit delete in that case. In this case, they'll just say, hey, is this a robot? And they will, at that point, when the robot says, well, yeah, they'll just hang up the phone. And so there's going to be no replacing of salespeople or SDRs when it comes to actually being on the phone, talking to prospects, drumming up new business. Where AI is coming into place for us, the primary thing that people are thinking about how we help is we're dialing a number of prospects at one time. So let's say, Jordan, someone on your team is saying, all right, it's time to make my calls for the day. It's maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. They hit a go button. We're dialing everyone on their list, 4 people at a time we're dialing. Because why? Because most of the time, most calls go to voicemail. And most of the time, the rep is just sitting there listening to the phone ring. So think of it this way. It's like, when should we bring in AI, and when is it a smart play that it's AI does it rather than the human being does it? In this case, would anyone hire someone in sales that for 80-90% of their day making calls, they're going to be listening to the phone ring, they're going to be listening to voicemail, and just waiting for that one person that doesn't let their calls go to voicemail and actually picks up? Would you prefer to pay a human being to do all that listening? Or does it make more sense that AI does the listening for you? And again, Jordan, your rep that is saying, I'm going to make my calls right now. They're going to hit a go button. 4 prospects at a time are going to be called. And within a couple minutes, we're going to get someone to pick up the phone because we're doing really smart stuff with caller ID, et cetera. But for each of those calls, your rep doesn't need to do anything in terms of dispositioning the call, saying, here's what happened with this one. The AI, the Concert's doing that all in the background. It went to voicemail. But what our AI is doing is listening every time. And when someone's picking up and saying something like, hi, it's Jordan, we can tell, okay, we got a live one. This is one worth connecting. And we do then just go ahead and connect that call. And that way, your rep is able to, I'll give you just yesterday, I had a candidate who wants to work for Koncert. And this guy seems like he's pretty into cold calling, because not everyone is, right? But he's kind of into it. And he's closed some real deals over his time. And he was saying, hey, at my last place, I was making a lot of dials. I was making 85 dials a day, which I like to hear that. I like to hear that someone who's into it, right? And I said, well, what did that look like in terms of what you get for the 85? That was probably taking 3 or 4 hours a day for him to make those 85 calls at least. 1.5 conversations is what he would net out of that. So most of the time, it was just wasted time. And that's what we cure, is that a rep is able to bring their list in, hit the go button, and within a couple of minutes, they're going to get a decision maker that's on their list in their ear and start to have the conversation. And oftentimes 6 to 10 conversations in just an hour. So that's essentially what we're doing. That's the first part of what we're doing with AI, is actually listening in to the phone ringing, and then when there's a live prospect, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like, I can testify to this because obviously we're a customer of yours, and we love Koncert. And the reason is we went from being on a live conversation with our setters maybe every 20 minutes to every 3 to 5. So you're looking at making it's so much more efficacious to be on with someone so much quicker, and more conversations are happening. You're dialing through lists quicker, and the integrations that you guys have with the larger CRMs is amazing. So if you guys are HubSpot fans or you're Salesforce fans, it's just like a perfect marriage of technology. So a lot of people are worried about that when they look at those things. So
yeah.
What are some
by the way, Jordan, thank you for being a Koncert fan, as it were, and thank you for saying it out loud. But when you think about your business, right, you're already good at segmenting your lists and doing all the smart stuff. And even you were having struggles of getting people on quickly enough for your reps not to be kind of disheartened about, like, save me 20 minutes before I actually get a live person on.
Yeah, and the greatest selling features for us were actually a little bit different. So it's interesting. It's a rep, and its rotation is important, but how they are able to access and move information, and how easy to use your software is definitely a main seller. And another thing is, and you can talk, we'll get more techie in a minute here, but how you guys are able to avoid having any spam numbers, and why. That is absolutely huge. And that you don't get this bloop into a call that you hear when people from overseas are calling us. You hear the bloop, and then someone's online, and there's no fumbles like that. It's a seamless experience for your calling team. And these are some of the things that really helped us make that decision, because of course we've evaluated like 20 technologies in the world that do similar things, and we've landed on you guys because we believe that you're best. We're a little bit of a fanboy there for sure.
Yeah, well,
But
we love that. And by the way, but I think that's an important kind of distinction of what this is not. This is not that call that comes in at the dinner hour that you say hello, 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 and it's like 5 seconds later, and then it's like you already know this is a nonsense call, and you almost treat it as such. This is not that. Our customers that are, many publicly traded companies would not stand for that whatsoever. Instead, we're just connecting you quickly. And you mentioned a little bit about the caller ID. We think that's vital for the same reason, because how poisonous is it when that rep 85 calls in, gets their one conversation, gets their one pickup, right? And what did the prospect see? They saw spam likely or even scam likely on the phone. We guard so carefully against that with our device cloud to make sure that our customers are calling with clean caller IDs, because it's, to us, it's like, yeah, it's obviously bad. You're not gonna get as many pickups because people see the spam likely, scam likely. But almost as bad is when they do pick up, and they're so kind of cynical about the call because
Mhm.
they just saw it said scam likely. What is this? They're not going to treat it in a kind of real way.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is like we need to give advantages to our reps because being an SDR or BDR or setter, whatever you want to call it, that's one of the hardest jobs in the world. It is. And we want to make
Absolutely.
this as an awesome experience where they can succeed and make as most money as possible for you and your company and for them. And to do that, we have to remove barriers. And these were some of the biggest barriers that we faced. And as you know, we're a sales enablement company. Like that, we come in and build sales systems. And so when we looked at you guys and evaluated everybody else, that was one of the key features is you don't pop, like your numbers don't pop as spam. They don't. And other ones are like auto rotators, which rotate multiple numbers and they get spams all the time. And this, I know it's technical for a lot of people out there, but know that what you guys do is just leaps and bounds ahead of the competition, which I think is really important. And I think it leads to the next question. When is the sales team actually ready to make Concert into their teams? Like when is it a good time to enable it? When have you seen it set the scenario and really do a good job overall? And when are they not ready? So when are they ready to add it and when are they not?
Yeah, when are they ready? Yeah, is when first there needs to be some sort of call culture, right? That don't invest in Concert or any other dialer if you're not for real about the power of waking up a prospect who wasn't thinking about you and your stuff and is getting blinded by all kinds of marketing by all kinds of companies, and you are just waking up someone and saying there's a better way if you have XYZ problem. That's what we do. We call and we say we're calling, not assuming you have this problem, but want to know, do you have this problem that you don't have enough conversations with reps and prospects? You don't have the problem, then we're not going to be a good fit. But that's number one is call culture, right? Like, are you into it? And what I mean by that is you don't need to be like some of our customers that are doing 50,000 dials a month. You don't need that at all. It's just you have folks on your team that they are looking to make a couple hundred dials even on a weekly basis. We have a solution for that. A lot of our customers are doing about 100 dials or so a day. Some are doing far beyond that. But the first thing is, are you willing to wake people up and understand how powerful it is to have those outbound leads in your pipeline? That's number one. The other piece of it is, and you mentioned it before, Jordan, the data, right? Do you have your data act together? We can first. First, data is cheap these days. You can get data so much cheaper now than you could 2 3 years
Mhm.
ago. So it makes sense to invest there, but we can also help you call through what's in your CRM, HubSpot, or whatever it is to be able to make the best use of what's already in there. Our parallel dialer is optimized for mobile numbers, so get the mobile numbers in there. But it's really a matter of, do you have the contact data? Do you have the call-in culture? And then do you have a CRM like a HubSpot or something that we can connect to? Because we can move so fast and get so much intelligence about your prospects, including like who's no longer there. And okay, I got a new referral, I got a new follow-up. Make sure that that's going into something someplace good like HubSpot.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I noticed about your team, and this is just a call out to you guys, is your customer service isn't just good. They link you up with the development team and things that you need to see to do well. You guys are the quickest I've ever seen at turnarounds in adding to your technology and growing things and creating amazing new sales rooms and developments and learning to navigate dial trees. Like people don't understand what they're sitting on. Like if you guys are at the base route and you're like, hey, what's AI enabled dialing today? We understand, but you're sitting with the masters right now with Joe here, and they can show you some things that you wouldn't believe are happening. So this one, where is your industry in terms of AI is moving so quickly, and everyone's really worried about what's going to happen next and why it's going to happen next. Where's it headed? Where's it headed in the AI dialing software space? We know it's not going to robot dialers, as you said before. But what are the innovations that are going to come out on the roadmap over the next 12 months or so?
Yeah, it's innovations on the roadmap. Before I even say that, though, I'll tell you this, that this is becoming table stakes in terms of there will be reps that say, you don't have the ability to allow me to have 6 to 10 prospect conversations in an hour. I got to go work for a company that allows me to do that because you're paying me on opportunities I find, you're paying me on meetings, et cetera. And what we're seeing is that the SDR class, right, is graduating into the AE class. And those new AEs are demanding that you want me to, okay, that's fine. I'm an AE. I can make a bunch of calls, but I'm not going back in time and doing them manually because it just doesn't make sense anymore. So that's the exciting thing for the industry, is that it's getting really big really quickly. In terms of where it's going, a couple of things I think what you're going to see, including from us, is live call coaching, meaning a little kind of chat bot that on the dialing session screen, I know I'm talking to Bob Smith at IBM, and the chatbot is helping me navigate that conversation. And when Bob Smith gives me some of the regular rebuttals, like just send me some information, or it's better that we talk later this year, just because they just want to get you off the phone, helping that rep in that moment remember what the best practice is to say X in that case, Y in that case. The little chatbot buddy will be on the screen to help with that. And something even we have right now is all of the calls are transcribed. And so that you can go into our call recording module and you can be able to, AI will help sift through to see, like, okay, who's struggling with the send email, those kind of common objections, or on this particular call, without listening to the whole thing, without reading the whole thing, these are the objections. That you're going to see a lot more of that stuff. And I think what you're going to see is the industry is going to get a lot smarter about next best call, meaning that we've lived in a world for a few years that the SDR is the one who has to figure out who should be on the list, who should be called next, et cetera. I think a lot of that's going to be taken out of the rep's hands, and it's going to be working with CRM like HubSpot, pulling, okay, who makes sense to go after, who is, the crazy thing is, Jordan, for so many customers, even the really sophisticated ones, like 80% of their CRM is untouched, right? Mm-hmm. Because the reps are cherry picking what they think is the best. I have a suspicion AI might be able to do that better, right?
Yeah, like I really see the future the same as you in terms of this industry. Is who comes up with the AI sales manager that can actuate all the data that's coming in and then propel you forward, saying this ICP makes more sense, this calling time makes sense. And we're already seeing like this is the best time to email someone and things like that. But it's going to go above and beyond. It's going to be best time to call. It's going to say call this person, say this, need set. And you're going to have this AI sit on top and understand it and compute it 1,000,000 times faster than any manager could. So that is where it's heading. Scary for everybody, but so exciting for people like you and me that are like on the cutting edge of this, and this is going to propel everybody forward. And as you said, it allows people to be way more effective in their jobs.
And so it's exciting for you and me, but exciting for that SDR who, is probably just starting to pay their college loans, has been, struggling through college. They finally have their job, and they are sitting there for the entire day listening to the phone ring. Like SDRs I talk to are so excited to just be engaged in conversations with prospects. And they, what that means? They're going to get a lot better at what they do as an SDR. And then if they become AEs down the road, they'll be able to do that so much better because they're actually having human voice-to-voice conversations. And that's what we believe is all of the AI helps to promote those human voice-to-voice conversations. Mm-hmm. But that's what the name of the game is.
Well, it really is. And that's the big thing is if we can reduce the turnover in SDRs, which is probably the hardest thing to do in sales management. AEs are much easier to keep because the results are much larger, quicker for them overall, and they're being fed. But then at the end of the day, those SDRs, to keep them, we got to find them success, right? And that's the biggest thing that this program can do is you can insert someone new. And we know this, even the worst salesperson in the world can convert 1 out of 100. So how do we get them to that 100? And then they get 2 out of 103 and they start getting better. And that's the training rhythm. It's just volume, 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 right?
Yeah.
And I find it's very interesting that way in what, where it's moving and how mentality's shifting, and definitely the new way sales mapping's working in terms of like, it used to be somebody was very dynamic in sales. I would say in the Gen X and Boomer generation, they had more diverse skill sets. They could do the whole sales cycle. But now it's very much the predictable revenue models that are being produced. And so it's moving to all industries. So that's why the call for Koncert. And if you guys haven't checked out Koncert, it's, Koncert. Go follow their LinkedIn page for updates. Go follow Joe. He puts out a ton of good stuff on LinkedIn as well. I want to make sure everybody does that. And if you can like and share this, would be awesome as well. Now, I really want to dive in for people to understand the client success that's coming from Koncert. Because when I say, like at the start, you guys heard me say, hey, we're on a live conversation every 3 to 5 minutes. And that changed from every 20 minutes. So imagine you're having 10 conversations an hour when before you might have been having 3. Like that is a substantial difference, but it also allows our SDRs not to burn out because they can be calling for 4 hours a day and then be doing, LinkedIn work and email work on the other side. Then they have a better lifestyle because they're hitting their numbers in between those. So what are some of the biggest and most exciting client success that you guys have seen at Koncert over the past year that you'd love to share with everybody?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple. One is, and by the way, you just made me think of something, which is that rep that can move from 1 to 2 conversations a day to 5 to 10 an hour, whatever that number ends up being, because it's always different depending on who you're calling into, what's your ICP, what time you're calling, all that kind of thing. But it's going to be a dramatic lift. And for that SDR, they end up in a place that if you go back to the candidate that I talked to the other day, that 85 dials, 1 conversation, that conversation ends up being so precious that you end up kind of in desperation mode because it's like, I got a live one. Whereas when you have 5 to 10 conversations in an hour, like you are respectful and cool to everyone you get, but at the same time, it's not live or die if you convert it to something. And so you can just be a lot more natural and a lot more comfortable. So I just want to mention that. But in terms of, I'll highlight a particular customer that is a company called BAI Security, and they are security, like cybersecurity kind of play. And they came to us and they were doing, they're one of the ones that are like, all right, we're all in on calling. They were doing 8,000 to 9,000 calls a month before us.
Wow.
But they saw that in their CRM, in their addressable market, the people that they need and should be talking to and the frequency with which they should be doing that, they were barely scratching the surface, even with that number. And so they brought in our parallel dialer for two reasons. One, to get the dials out, but way more importantly, to get the conversations. And so they shifted to, again, from 8,000 to 9,000 a month to 60,000 a month is where they moved to with Koncert. And they moved from now, because and they were right. They saw it. They saw that we're cherry picking. We're being too careful. We're too narrow in who we're talking to. Let's expand that. And so they moved from 30 to 40 opportunities a month to 160 opportunities a month. And so imagine what that has to do for overall revenue growth. And there's few businesses that can't be changed pretty dramatically if they can introduce themselves to the right prospect that actually has the pain you solve for, and do it before the competitor gets in there, and create the relationship before the competitor gets in there. Start talking about what's important before the competitor gets in there. Because what's the other side of it, Jordan? It's that, because I lick my lips when I look at my pipeline from my reps, and it's like, okay, outbound, outbound, outbound. Okay, we have an inbound. Okay, that's fine. But what I know happened there is that the person who filled out the inbound form did the same thing for 5 to 10 other companies, and are only even going to give us so much attention, right? And so this is something that it's BAI major scale. Doesn't really matter what your scale is, as long as what we talked about before, that you have that calling culture. There are dials that need to be made. You have someone who actually can deliver on the phone, that is half decent at having human conversations, and you focus on the problem when you call someone, and you figure out if you can solve for it, and then you get them on the next call. The big mistake is trying to sell the company or the solution on that first call. And that's why a lot of, the big SDR experiment where that's gone wrong a lot is that there's too much selling of the product in the company, not for the meeting. People are ready to schedule a meeting, not ready to sit there for 5 or 10 minutes with you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like go to value quickly is what we've been finding is where decision makers really want to play nowadays. And the success of your calling program is it has to be developed. It has to be trained. It has to be built in. That's why companies like mine exist. People come to us to build out these outbound programs, these inbound programs. How do we do it? What do we say? Where do we go? What technologies do we use? And you guys are our cornerstone of what we build. Because an outbound program is, at the end of the day, about touch points and then increasing your ability with every touch point that you have. And there's no program that we found parallels yours to a large degree. There's always an issue with suspected spam calls. There's always an issue with the rotation amounts. There's always some issue that's going on that you guys have eliminated. And you don't get that bloop. Talk about this exciting new tech before we go. And I want to remind everybody, hey, if you like this, reach out to Joe directly. Just hit him up on LinkedIn. He'd love to be your friend. And say you came from here and you want to learn more about Koncert. We'd love you to do that because they're such a great company. As I said, their customer service team is incredible as well. We absolutely love what Victoria's done over there with that team. So, yeah, walk us through that. Walk us through that last piece.
I'm not sure if give me again what the last piece is you want me to walk through.
Yeah. No, I just wanted, we'll just share your last thought on just going out here. Sorry, I missed it too. I just went, how your brain goes during these podcasts.
Of course.
Just the last closing thoughts on Koncert and how you want to move things for other people, and maybe an invitation about where they should follow you outside of what I just said.
Yeah, for sure. Please, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can send me an email at jcronin@Koncert, and that's with a K, at koncert.com. The idea is we work in concert with your HubSpot, your SalesLoft, your Outreach, whatever it is, and we really make everything sing for you in terms of prospecting. So do that. And what I'd say is, please ask me for a 5-minute video that we just produced that will essentially takes what would otherwise be a 45-minute demo, condenses it all so you can understand the full platform in this really easy to understand 5-minute video. Ask me to send that. I'd love to send it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to go over a couple of comments that came in through LinkedIn here. So Chris Bradley, who I know is big in the sales game, he says that chatbot assistant could be a game changer on calls with people across industry, right? So if it can get industry specific and you can preload those. And I thought about that from a sales enablement end. To leave off the conversation here is that if we can learn these, we can build qualification decks really quickly and train people at a way higher cadence. And so that's what that next level is. It's going to be all about, when you look at salespeople, it's going to be about human relationship and what we can do for others and how we can enable them quickly to relate to other people. So it's going to be moving away from having to do all this nerdy tech stuff because it's going to be handled for us. And it's going to be moved into, how do you actually sell? How do you relate? How do you be human again?
And there's the better news there, right? Is a lot of your spammy emails, you just delete because they don't know anything about me. They don't know about my problem, etc. Where we're going to move to is that prospects that actually are pretty good with taking outbound call because their experience is they will at the SDR on the other side actually knows about their business, can talk through what's going on, and is good at doing it because they're doing it more than once or twice a day, right? That will get much better experiences for the prospects. It's gonna be a winner all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lowell says, who actually uses your product every day, he says also AI summary gives great details so that I don't have to take time to make notes and remember what the call was about. So that transcription's a real time saver overall for them. And these are some things to remember. How do you just make people more effective? So we'll leave it there. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks to Lowell for being another Koncert fan. And he's right. About 5 minutes can be taken to do the like note taking. Now it's about 3 seconds.
Exactly. And if you guys want to get on board with this, reach out to Joe. And if you need help putting these systems in place and writing everything up and making this happen, you can reach out to us. But this was the first one of To Bot or Not, and we hope you guys enjoyed the series. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks a lot, Jordan. Appreciate it.